So let's continue our journey by looking at facilitation. You take out the resource guide and look at the facilitation section.
You'll find that in the resource guide there are various facilitation techniques, and they give you a step-by-step of those techniques. Don't be concerned so much about all of the steps and the techniques at this point, but pay particular attention to why we facilitate and the need for facilitation. So once you've read the resource guide and the student text, watch the next section of videos on facilitation. Well, here we are in Sydney, Australia. Recognize this building? Of course you do. It's the Sydney Opera House, known world over. But did you know that when this was built, it was grossly over budget and very late? In a traditional definition of project failure, it would have been a failure. Luckily, it turned out all right in the end. There's something called the Chaos Report. It's done by the Standish Group. They looked at 2,100 different projects, and they found that 68% of projects fail or are challenged. That is, they're late, they're over budget with less than the required functionality. Now, consider if you were the C-level and somebody's coming to you with a proposal, and you know about this chaos report, and you say to yourself, well, gee, 2 out of 3 of these are going to fail. It's not very comfortable feeling at all. One of the things that's important, I think, when we think about project success is the reasons why it's successful. And again, the Standish group surveyed the successful ones, and they said, well, what is it that makes them successful? Number one reason, user involvement. So you can see the other ones on the slide: executive support and clear business objectives. I'm going to suggest that those first 3 could very well be influenced by your success at facilitation in the stakeholder community. That if you do that, you've got user involvement. If you have user involvement and consensus, I think it's easier to get executive support, and certainly facilitated sessions allow you to be clearer. Here are some of the points to keep in mind in terms of effective group performance. That the task and role is clear, you've got a decision-making approach, you can resolve conflict, and in the next section we'll be looking at resolving conflict. That you have open communication, that we talked in the last lesson about clear communications and listening and allowing everyone to participate. One aspect of highly effective groups is ongoing performance self-assessment. That is, can the group assess how well they're doing? A little time at the end of the meeting to say, how did we do? Did everybody feel listened to? Did we make the appropriate did we have the appropriate process that allowed us to get where we're going? And lastly, there are things called group operating norms. These are the rules by which the group operates. Some of those group norms are overtly stated. So you make a rule, you must read the information I give you before you watch the video. You need to do the exercise afterwards. These are rules about how the group's going to operate. But there are many more group operating norms that are set without explicitly stating them. For example, if you call a meeting for 10 o'clock, what time does the meeting start? Is it 10:05? Is it 10:10? Is it when everyone gets there? If your meeting starts at 10:10, the group operating norms that you set are, we're going to call a meeting for 10, but we're not going to start until 10 minutes after the start time. There are many operating norms. Here's something that I think's very important, and if I were to boil facilitation down to its core, it would be this. As a facilitator, I have to ask, what does the group need at this point? What are they trying to accomplish? What's the technique that's most appropriate? And what tone do I need in order to set, what tone do I need to set to facilitate the goal? So in other words, sometimes groups have difficulty reaching a decision, and there's a lot of conflict, and I need to set a tone that it will allow them to look at things objectively, to step back and look at things. Something called the criteria-based matrix that allows us to do that. Sometimes they need to generate ideas, and so we need a tone that's more comfortable and perhaps a little out of the box in order to do that. All things that you should look at.